There you are, Felicia. Okay, good morning. My name is Joanna Nelson, and I'm the Strategic Programs Manager for the State of New Mexico Economic Development Department. And we're really excited that you're here this morning because we have launched an RFP to update and continue developing the strategic plan, the Strategic Economic Development Plan that we have for the department, in alignment with the work that the Sustainable Economy Task Force is helping to lead. So we'll be going over that RFP. And then if you have questions, more than happy to take those. And we will post this recording on our website. And we'll also send it out to the folks that have submitted that letter of interest to the RFP. And this will be pretty informal. I'll just show you where you can find the RFP and walk you through that information. And hopefully it gives you some insight and understanding where we are coming from. So let me share my screen. All right, great. So you can, and I should mention too, I'm joined today this morning with Felicia DePaula, who is the Special Programs Coordinator and helps to coordinate the Sustainable Economy Task Force, who will be helping out with this RFP. So good morning, Felicia.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Joanna.
All right, so you can find the RFP on our website. And I've got the address right here in the title bar. I'm assuming you can see my screen, edd.newmexico.gov. And you can find the, oops, sorry about that. You can find the RFP under public notices, which is under About Us. So you can click that. And then this is where we have the RFP listed. And the official name of the RFP is RFP EDD-Strategic Plan Update FY 231. And before we dive in, I think it's important to kind of understand the background of this. I mentioned that we are putting this RFP forward through the Sustainable Economy Task Force and Senate Bill 112. That mandates and gives authority to EDD to administer this task force. And you can find more information about the task force actually in the same drop-down box. You can go to Sustainable Economy Task Force and you can read more about that actual Senate bill that passed in the last legislative session, maybe two legislative sessions ago, actually, to set up what we refer to as the SET Force. And it has a subgroup, the Sustainable Economy Advisory Council, called the SEEC. And the whole focus of this group is really to diversify the economy by limiting reliance on the extractive industries, and especially put focus and support on historically marginalized communities and populations. We've launched our strategic plan called Empower and Collaborate, New Mexico's Economic Path Forward, in the fall of 2021. And we have agreed, because we already had a plan to diversify the economy, to utilize that plan as the strategic plan that is laid out in Senate Bill 112. And so for the next 5 years, we have funding and resources to continue updating and editing that plan. As well, a big focus of this work, as I mentioned, is supporting communities and populations that have been historically marginalized and negatively impacted by economic development, climate change, et cetera, to make sure that there's a voice and engagement with those communities and populations. So for the next 5 years, the SET Force and the SEEC and this plan are very contingent around this work. So community engagement is a big piece of making sure we are capturing the voices and the opinions of these underrepresented and underserved communities and populations. So I'll go back to the RFP. Again, you can find all this information. It might be interesting for you to look back on past meetings for the set force and the SEEK. You can find minutes and agendas. And I think under this page on our just straight up boards and commissions, you can see who is appointed to serve on the set force. And you can see that there's a number of agencies that are represented. And then you can also see per Senate Bill 112, who is representing these specific perspectives on the Sustainable Economy Committee. And this is chaired by James Poiwa, and he's the vice chair of the set force that EDD administers. And I recognize some of the SEEK members and set force members on the call. So great to see you here today. So we'll go back to the RFP and we'll just go through that. But I hope you've got some good understanding and backstory about where this effort is coming from. Again, please ask questions. So you go to public notices and scroll down here to the actual RFP. This RFP is about 47 pages, and we released this on November 21st, and it's due on January 9th. Hopefully it's a okay timeline. We will support you. We know it's in the holidays, so hopefully you can get something together and it'll start the conversation. Obviously, you can find the table of contents here and be able to navigate in that way. But you've got the introduction, which again lays forth a lot of the backstory about we are really looking for a contractor to help us update the current strategic plan that we have that is laid out to diversify and strengthen the economy. As well, this version or this round is different because we're really looking for help to engage those communities that are underrepresented. I do want to mention that we worked with a contractor in the summer of 2022, with Hatchform. And I'm not sure if Hatchform is represented on the call today, but they did a great job in setting forth some guidelines and some advice for how we would move forward with this exercise. And then as well, they laid forward, working with the Center for Civic Policy and Justice, a strategy for community engagement. So it's exciting that we've got some suggestions and great recommendations already put forward that hopefully the new contractor could come in and build upon that work to carry forward the actual updating and editing of the strategic plan. I do want to mention that you can find the strategic plan on our website, and I'll just jump over there really quickly, that you can actually go to from our homepage, and you can go here or link directly eddstateplan.com. And this is where you can find the full plan, which is about 400 pages. It contains about 4 different analyses, and then it contains the action plan as well. And these are listed in the RFP library. Again, you can link to that Senate Bill 112. And the vision, of course, is to have a diverse and robust economy that engages local talent, cultivates innovation, and delivers prosperity for all New Mexicans, making sure that inclusivity and equality is a part of this effort. The work is to be expected to be concluded by June 30th. That's the end of our fiscal year. This is a nod to making sure that we have an updated strategic plan and information available for presentations for the legislative committees that are meeting over the summer and to be able to present to the committees that the task force is responsible for providing information to at the end of the summer, beginning of the fall. So we would need the information updated by June 30th. The thing to remember is this is an ongoing exercise for the next, I think this will be our first year, but we are mandated to carry this work forward for the next 5 years. So we would be hopeful that the contractor that we work with, everyone is on good terms, and we have a really great relationship to continue working with them. And again, this work will be replicated in an ongoing basis. And so it's exciting to know that originally when we published our plan, it's not just sitting there and collecting dust. It's a living, breathing document that we're really excited to be able to work with a contractor to really bring it to life and figure out what did we get wrong, what do we need to tweak, and how can this be a better plan. Here you can see within the scope of procurement, again, it just kind of spells out the focus is focused on data collection, community engagement, state plan revisions, presentation material, and implementation strategy. So our procurement manager for the department is Chris Romero, and you can find his information here. He oversees all of the RFPs that we handle at EDD. You can find more information specifically about the procurement process here. Proposal delivery, that can go to me. We might have a change up, and we'll definitely put all information and edits on our website. But for the time right now, it can go to me. And then I think later down in the document, we do describe that electronic delivery is perfectly fine. Just make sure that the format is a PDF. And as we'll get into, you'll have the narrative portion of that proposal as well as the cost estimate. Those are two different PDFs. And for the time being, you can send those to me. And again, keep your eyes open on the website, and any updates to where you send that information will be addressed there. You can find all of the definitions here. I'll just go through pretty quickly some of these basic technicalities. I mentioned the procurement library here. You can have basic information about the RFP process. And again, we've put here the link to Empower and Collaborate, our state plan, as well as information about the task force, the Senate bill, and then our website. One thing that I do want to make sure that gets in here, and hopefully we can provide that as a follow-up, is through the Senate bill, there is reference to the Clean Jobs study that was put out by Department of Workforce Solutions that talks about diversifying the economy and supporting the clean energy sector as well as the green economy. And the strategic plan has a need to refer to that plan as well. So that was an oversight on our end. We'll make sure that that link gets in here as well, because that plan is just as important as the Empower and Collaborate. Here we've got the basic sequence of events. I mentioned that we launched this on November 21st. We are asking folks that by today that you send that acknowledgement of receipt form if you're interested in applying for this RFP. You still can apply if you don't get that acknowledgement of receipt form, but what that means if you don't make it by the end of today is that you won't necessarily be handed or emailed or notified the list of questions that have been asked by these potential offerers. So we will try to get all the questions that are asked from this webinar, as well as any follow-ups, posted on our website, on that page that you found the link to the RFP. So hopefully you can get those in by the end of today. Today again is the 7th, so we're hosting our pre-proposal conference. Deadline to submit any written questions is on the 12th. So you should be good to get your receipt form in today and get access to those questions. We will provide those by the 14th. And then the key date here for everybody to recognize is the 9th, January 9th, and that is by the end of day. And again, you can submit that electronically. We really don't need a physical copy. If you want to, you can deliver it to EDD, but that won't change our deliberation or our review or our scoring process. Electronic format via email works just great. And what you would want to do is request receipt of that submittal. So I or our staff would say, yes, we got it. And that's your confirmation that it was received and time-stamped to make the cutoff. So we will hope to move really quickly on this process, and we will review the proposals. We will set up an evaluation committee. At this time, it hasn't been identified yet, but I know our Deputy Secretary, John Clark, will be involved. Felicia will be involved, representing EDD and the resiliency team, as well as the Sustainable Economy Task Force. I would imagine we'd have some members from the task force as well as the advisory council on that evaluation committee. So we will get that set up. They will review, identify who should be interviewed, and then we will reach out to those finalists to provide oral presentations. And we're estimating that that should happen sometime mid to late January, 117 to 120. And then we will hopefully within the next couple of days after those oral presentations be able to score the offerer's proposal and get a notification to the awardee. And finalizing contractual agreements obviously starts very quickly after that. And so just a reminder that any work performed for the state, the company and firm has to be a registered vendor with the state of New Mexico. So if you are not a registered vendor, we would help you to get set up and get that process started. You have until February the 15th to protest or ask questions. And you can send that information to EDD, and we'd be more than happy to provide information to you. This is a very transparent process. And again, our main goal is to make sure you have the information and support you need. Section B, explanation of events, shows you and walks you through basically what I've just explained, but feel free to go through this in more detail to get more information. And I'm just going to scroll down to see if there's anything else that I can elaborate or enhance. We do allow subcontracting on this proposal. The key thing to remember is that we don't have any say or any interaction in those subcontracts. We enter into a prime contract with the prime recipient, and then they are able to follow up with the subcontractor. And you can see that lined out here. And here you do see the prime contractor must receive approval in writing from the agency. So we do provide approval. I misspoke, but it's great to know we work with a lot of contractors that have subcontractors. And as I mentioned, the work done and completed in the summer, the prime worked with a subcontractor, and we all talked and worked together. And let's see, I'm going to scroll down here to, we do have a section that talks about, we do have to adhere to procurement codes, obviously, and there is a preference for businesses that are based in New Mexico, as well as Native American residents. There is a preference, and there is additional scoring that's available to those firms. I'm going to click on the questions really quick. There's a question that asked about, is the report that Hatch Form that they completed in the summer, is that available? And I think that would be. I'll have to double check, but that's one of the additions that we can make to that library, if it's okay. And we'll make that available if it's possible. That's a great question, because it's really fantastic work that they did. And someone asked, is there a way that the work could extend past the June 30th end of the fiscal year deadline to August 1st or September 1st? Great question. At this point, we'd really have to shoot for completing that work to end on the 30th. This might be something that we could bring up with our procurement manager to better understand. But if that changes, I think that's a completely valid question. We will definitely put that information on the website. Thanks for asking that. And someone asked about, where do you find that acknowledgement of receipt? And we'll get to that. Oh, and then they said, found it, never mind. So great. Yes, that's one of the amendments at the end of the RFP. So we're getting into section 3 that goes over how to provide and package your proposal. As I mentioned, you're going to have 2 proposals. You've got your technical proposal that's providing the bulk and the narrative of what you're proposing, and then you've actually got your cost proposal and your cost estimate. Those will be 2 separate PDFs. And hopefully we did some decent editing to this, and it's conveyed very clearly that we are desiring this information submitted electronically. And again, that is the preferred method of getting information out. So section C is really important because this provides all of the information that you need to set up your proposal. What is the content and how do you organize it? It's very, very important that you follow this format, because we actually, when we are reviewing these and scoring them, we are looking to see that those instructions were followed and they are in the correct order and everything is complete. I think everything is pretty self-explanatory, because we'll go into some of these documents that you can find at the end of the RFP. Here's a reminder. GSD is really good about reminding offerers that you should not include any cost information in the proposal summary. And this is the meat of the RFP. This is the detailed scope of work under section 4. And this is really where we're getting at. What are we looking at? And again, you've got at the beginning, the contractor will provide information and data that will enhance that initial analysis performed by the Economic Development Department in the first version of the strategic plan. So hopefully that's really clear. You're not writing a new plan. We have a plan, we have a start, but we're looking for updates and enhancement. We are requesting that any additional information that's collected is editable, and it's provided in Excel tables and graphical summary format. The purpose is we want to be able to use that information not only for our benefit as well as our partners, but also to be able to provide information on our website. The information provided must include enhancements to results and feedback from our key partners. So those are listed here. You've got the Council of Governments, tribal entities, economic development organizations. And something to throw out here too is we went through this through the first version. So we've got a really great established list of contacts already ready to go to touch base with. And of course, a reminder that we're looking again for the voices that we didn't capture initially. The contractor will work with designated representatives of EDD and the Sustainable Economy Advisory Council to identify new sources of information to ensure engagement of overly burdened communities and disproportionately impacted communities through interviews and surveys. Contractor will conduct these, and the data gathering and analysis process should be coordinated with a designated representative from EDD, and the data collected will be made available to EDD in accessible format. So it's just kind of repeating the information that's already available. So that's under this section of the data collection. And I will mention our contractor that we worked with called SRI during the first round of the strategic plan development conducted about 100, I think, interviews with different stakeholders. And then they also had an open survey that we pushed out pretty heavily. So just giving you some insight into how that secondary information, that primary information was collected, in addition to standardized economic data platforms. So the community engagement section, this is an expectation that there will be the development of a full community engagement plan based on the guidance framework prepared in June 2022 with consultation from SEEK in an accessible format. And to the person that asked that great question about will that report be available? Definitely, I think that's great. Again, we'll check with the lawyer to make sure everything is legal, and we'll provide that information. And then incorporate feedback from interviews and surveys conducted under 3 as part of that state data collection. And then we're moving on to the state plan revisions. This is actually taking that data that was collected and making the revisions to the state plan. So we did receive funding from EDA, Economic Development Administration, in the first round to fund that strategic plan. So we would like to still adhere to requirements put forth through comprehensive economic development strategies, with the understanding that it's a solid framework to approach a comprehensive economic development strategy. And we are hopeful that our any updates will still continue to follow that approach. And the exciting thing about our plan was that it was the first plan that the state has had to address economic growth and diversification long term. And so we will be excited to still continue to utilize it as not only short term, but medium term, and then going up to 20 years to be able to look into the future. Number 2, the contractor will compile feedback and information from the community engagement process. The plan must edit, enhance, and update unique strategies for the state's 9 targeted industry sectors. They will update the recommendations of all phases of diversification, and during all of the phases, identify tangible timelines and responsibilities associated with each group. So what number 5 is really referring to is the action plan that you can find in the Empower and Collaborate strategic plan. That really is our guidebook and our map to bringing this thing to life. Felicia actually has been leading a lot of the work to check in with pretty much every stakeholder that is identified in that strategic plan to assess what action has been done, what are the activities that maybe are not so relevant that we can omit or we can update and we can revise, but we've already got a pretty good solid start on our action plan of where we're at and what edits could benefit being made. So within that action plan, it does identify the stakeholders. It identifies a timeline. Is this short term, medium term, or long term? And then it also identifies an estimate of how much resources are needed to carry this out. And then we've got number 6, which that I think was in the last legislative session, in addition for EDD to incorporate uranium mine cleanup as a targeted industry. And that edit has not been made. And so we would be looking to the contractor to add this information in. Hopefully that is helpful. Oh, we got one more. Sorry about that. The presentation. I mentioned that we are required from SB 112 to present on updates and status for the Sustainable Economy Task Force, as well as the strategic plan. And so we would be looking to the contractor to help guide and support EDD, prepare the update and information for the legislative committees. Again, asking that the contractor provide that information and data in editable formats. And then we've got the implementation strategy. So advise and support EDD to develop implementation strategy for the agency along with the stakeholders. So I'm recognizing we're kind of getting close to time. So I'm going to kind of fly through the technical specifications that are laid out. They're pretty clear. We obviously are valuing that an organization has experience in this field. They have experience working with state government. They have experience working, developing strategic plans in economic development, and the big focus as well. They have an understanding and relationships with community organizations, as well as populations that have been historically marginalized and underrepresented in economic development previously in the state. So those are the things that we are really looking for, that experience. And so we do ask for resumes of all folks and personnel that are involved. And then we want to hear about that experience. We want to hear about 2 different projects. What was great and what failed? What were some challenges that you experienced in other projects, to help us get an understanding of your experience so far? And then, of course, we're asking for references. This is great to be able to chat with other organizations that have worked with you. And then we've got mandatory specifications that, again, this is kind of repeating that expertise and experience that we would want to see in a contractor, but we want to know that you understand economic development, infrastructure, legislative issues, and limitations in the state of New Mexico. Again, your proposal is focused on those 3 time frames: short, medium, and long. You can identify partnerships and strategies with other state agencies. You've got already a good sense of the ecosystem and our partners. And let's see, the other one to throw out there that we haven't mentioned, I think we've covered these. Again, underscoring you have a knowledge and ability to engage underserved and underrepresented communities. So here, the business specifications are laying out those components of the proposal that you would have. And section 5, evaluation, you can see of what are we scoring. And it's very clear: your organizational experience, your references, and then those mandatory specifications. And then I mentioned it was really important that you get all of that information in the correct order. So that's either a pass or a fail, C1 and C2. And then if you are selected for oral presentations, that is scored, and then your cost as well. I mentioned that there is a preference for New Mexico and Native American residents. So we are adding additional points there. Then also there's a veteran preference as well too, that I didn't mention, but that's available. So the evaluations factors are spelled out in section B, and you can get more information and then how to approach those references. And this number 7 provides a breakdown of how do we score and get to the actual points that are available. And you can find more information about those preferences and the evaluation process. I'm just kind of flying through these so we can get to the appendix. Here's that request for proposal acknowledgement of receipt form, and that's Appendix A on page 32. And hopefully, if you're interested, you can get that information in today, 5 p.m. Mountain Time. As part of your proposal package, you will be responsible for filling out the campaign contribution disclosure form. So please read over this and identify if you have made contributions to any political parties that we need to be aware of. And then we've got Appendix C that goes over the cost response form and more guidance on how do you determine and disclose your cost estimate. And then we've got the letter of transmittal form. This will be, I think, I'm going out on a limb. I think this goes as one of your first pages on the proposal. And of course, this is all of the key contact information that we need to know when we're following up with folks. So make sure you fill out all of that correctly. And then here's an organizational reference questionnaire. Feel free to use this if this is easier, but this is providing that information from those past organizations that you worked with. So you could provide this, or you could incorporate this information on a different format if you'd like as well. So I went through this pretty quickly, pretty self-explanatory. I hope you got some basic information about where we're coming from and what we're looking at. I'm going to turn over to the questions and keep them coming. And I'll go through this really quick. So this is a great question that was asked. Are you looking to update and edit the existing document or have a new document drafted? So I hope I'm able to answer this. Just underscoring that, yes, we've got the strategic plan and we're looking to have that updated and edited. And so we would be looking to the contractor as well, working with our leadership team, our cabinet secretary and our deputy secretary, as well as the task force and the advisory council. How would we make those edits obvious? Would we just put it into the current draft and republish it? Or would we want to have our specific edits separated? I would assume we would just incorporate it into the new document and identify the changes that were made. But we are definitely open to getting recommendations from the contractor on that. So we don't have a hard and fast answer for you who asked that question. Someone said, given the focus on equity and inclusion of hard to reach populations, the timeline feels very constrained. Hopefully that can be flexible. And I would agree and acknowledge that. I think our saving grace is that this work, as I mentioned, is extending 4 years. So hopefully we can really nail down the strategy and begin and start that work and acknowledge that even though the documentation is due on the 30th, that still we're building the foundation and the framework to carry this work forward. But thanks for bringing that up because it's a very valid point. I will throw in there too that is one of the purposes of the Sustainable Economy Advisory Council is to help with community engagement. So I'm hopeful that we would have resources that can aid the contractor as well to have capacity to be able to do a good job in that area. And so someone mentioned, I'm assuming that the 5-year continuation of the work with the selected contractor would be contingent on the success in the first 6 months leading up to the initial June implementation. Is that correct? Yes, I think this question is getting at the continuation of working with that particular contractor. And yes, that would be based on the success and the positive experience that we would have working together. And I think maybe I'll just take a second to mention it. That work ends June 30th, but that is within that second year of the 5-year continuation. Hopefully I answered that. Feel free to type something in. Oh, great question that was brought up. Is there a budget set out for this? And yes, we were allocated $100,000 from the legislature to carry this work forward. So the budget is $500,000 I'm sorry, $100,000. Let me repeat that. And that is hopefully identified here in the document. Let me pull that up. It is here. But yeah, I'm so glad you asked that question. I had forgotten to mention that. That's very important. So I will find that. I won't bug everybody by just scrolling in the document, but it is here confirming this contract would be for $100,000 ending June 30th. And so I see somebody else asked that question. What is the allocated budget for the work completed during the 6-month implementation? So again, $100,000. And then to continue the work, the Sustainable Economy Task Force via, EDD via the task force is awarded and allocated $100,000 each fiscal year to continue this work. And great question. Someone asked, will oral presentations be in person or virtual? And at this point, they would be virtual. I think we might offer, we'll have to confirm that. For the past year, we have been conducting all oral presentations virtually. So I'm just assuming it would be virtual, but let's confirm and get that information out to you. I think that's a great question. And somebody said they can't hear me at 10:25. So I hope you can hear me. Felicia, can you hear the audio okay?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right. I just was talking to an abyss maybe for some folks, but the great thing is this is being recorded, so we'll get this information out. Fantastic question about when do you anticipate the library to be updated with the Hatch Form report and the green energy report? I will make a phone call to our lawyer right after this call, and I would hope within the next 2 hours we can update with that answer and that information. Thanks for asking that. Is the $100,000 inclusive of GRT? I think that is inclusive of GRT. Thanks for asking that. I think we do specify that. And that's a great question. We'll get a confirmation on that as well. So I got to the end of the questions. Any others? Feel free to type in within the next minute. Our contact information is in the RFP. So please submit any additional questions that you have as you're going through this information. And we will be posting answers to this officially on the website on the 14th. And again, this process is very transparent, very supportive. We are thrilled to begin this work. I acknowledge that this is a constrained timeline, but we're really eager to work with you all on that and do the best that we can to get this work started and build on the great work that was done over the summer. And again, to support the fantastic team at the Sustainable Economy Advisory Council and the task force. So Felicia, do you have anything to add?
Nothing on my end, just that Monica had asked if LGBTQ was part of the underserved and underrepresented community. So I sent over the portion of Senate Bill 112 that does identify that, in fact, the LGBTQ community is part of that and acknowledged in the bill. So just to point that out in case anybody else had that question.
Oh, great. I'm glad that is addressed. And one of the things that maybe even the task force could adopt is the federal definition that we're dealing with a lot in some of our federally funded programs, but we're using the definition of socially and economically disadvantaged individuals, which is pretty inclusive, not only of economic status, but social status. So any social group based on ethnicity, race, gender, veteran, geographic location that has been disadvantaged falls into that. So LGBTQ plus would definitely fall into that. So thanks for asking that question. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions. I'm so thankful that you're here today, and we got to do this together. We got to work together on this. So we're just thrilled that you're even putting the time and energy here to learn more about this important work. And again, reach out, don't hesitate, and we'll get information posted on the 14th. We'll also hope to post the DWS study, as well as get confirmation that we can post that Hatch form, that great Hatch form report on the website too. All right, great. Thank you all so much, and hope to hear from you soon. Take care.